A to navigating work and grief. Lavoie, founder of Widows in the Workplace and the Grief Company, and I'm so glad you're here today because we have one of my most favorite people who I've known for a few years, and we're going to talk about something that people struggle with after loss, how grief impacts our finances, and how to take back a sense of control when your whole life feels like it's spinning out of control. And managing money isn't just about loss. It isn't just about numbers. It's emotional. It's overwhelming, and it is so, so personal. So today I have the fabulous Megan Kopka here, founder of Kopka Financial, and she's also the chairwoman of the board at Modern Widows Club. Megan is a CFP and an RLP, and she's going to tell you about what all that is in case you don't know what that means. And when she's not doing her professional life, she's a salsa dancer and took that up, I think, over the past few years as she travels the world and works and writes and does all of the things that Megan does. So, Megan, so happy you're here today.
Thanks so much for having me, Jody. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Dive in. We're going to talk about money today a little bit.
We are. And money's hard for people, some people to talk about. And so before we get into the nitty-gritty, why don't you tell people what led you to do the work that you're doing today?
So, specifically, starting to serve caregivers and widows with holistic financial planning. My catalyst is my own personal story. My late husband was diagnosed with ALS in 2010. I was a caregiver for 4 years alongside with my children. And in 2014, sadly, Keith passed away from ALS and I became widowed. And so, what I found in the caregiving community was there was a lot of support, a lot of information, a lot of equipment and treatments and things that, just people coming together to talk about the healthcare community and how to best support our loved ones. And I expected that in widowhood, but that is not what you get in widowhood at all. There really wasn't a group or an organization that I knew of at the time when I was newly widowed. And I came into caregiving and widowhood having already been a financial advisor. I was working at Merrill Lynch at the time when Keith was diagnosed. And I worked for a couple of small planning firms after that before I opened my own. And I will say, I'm, the founder and CEO of Kopka Financial. I am Kopka Financial, and my firm specializes in holistic financial planning for caregivers and widows. But I didn't step out on my own, and I did not hold myself out to do that until 2018. I really had to work through my own story before I could serve people who looked like me. And I think part of it, it feels like, you find your purpose and mission, but there's also a part of it where it's serious mentorship, I would say, and reaching back and helping fresher widows. And the other part is to have the financial acumen, especially as a female, is quite unusual. And most people want to run away from money conversations, yet alone their own personal finances. So that's my personal story is, I had a passion for finance, my degrees in economics. I was walking this walk when Keith got sick, and then I chose to specialize and meet people in the hardest of situations because I had walked there myself. I knew, the elephant in the room type of questions. I'm not afraid to facilitate those conversations with couples when you are given the grace of time with a diagnosis like that. And I'm also, very open to holding space of what is on a fresh widow's mind when it comes to her finances. My agenda aside, like, of course, I've got a checklist like everyone else does, but what's keeping you up at night and what's most important to you? And I deeply, deeply believe that love and relationships matter the most, and that finances are foundational. And when you're widowed, when you're a caregiver or when you're widowed, they're top of mind. The finances are changing almost immediately. And I'll just close and turn it back to you in just a second. But I'm part of the Certified Financial Transitionist movement. I'm in their training right now. And they're known for saying, when life changes, money changes. When money changes, life changes. And it's just cyclical like that. And when you think about it, money is our greatest resource, and it comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with a lot of emotional baggage. And I truly believe that when I work with clients, that they are likely walking into the most personal, professional relationship that they'll ever experience, right? I am intimately involved in their decisions, their children's future, all of those things. And so it's with a lot of heart and a lot of compassion and a lot of empathy that I take this work very, very seriously. And it has become my purpose and mission.
And Megan, you've said so much there that is really important. And in general, women are not the managers of money. And so, especially for widows, this can be such a scary time if they haven't been involved intimately in some of those money conversations. And then all of a sudden they're found with, uh-oh, what do I do? And there's really an important secret sauce to what you do and are able to address with widows and grievers and caregivers and people going through really the most difficult time in their life. And can you just say a little bit more about what you do um, to address that compared to kind of what's out there?
Yeah, so I think the first thing whenever I speak publicly or in these types of forums is to myth bust that don't make any major decisions for a year. So our lives, like it or not, we talk about there's two things you must do, die and pay taxes, right? And so we have tax years. And when people tell you to take a year off, it's not like the IRS is gonna, give you a big hug and say, it's okay, honey, you were widowed, you can have this year off and not file. That's
Yeah.
not what happens. And it's not just taxes, there's just strategies and there's timelines to certain opportunities. And when you miss them, then they might be gone forever, right?
Yeah.
60-day limits, 30-day limits, 90-day limits. It's really hard. It's hard to talk about finances in general, yet alone to go into a new estate attorney's office and they speak Latin at you, or you go and talk to a financial advisor and they want to know, do you want an inherited IRA or are you going to roll this over on your own? And it's like, well, you don't know the difference. I do, but maybe you don't. So sometimes I feel like the work is really partnering with someone and hearing them because in grief, month after month, day after day, you might show up as an entirely different person with a whole new thought pattern or a whole new future planned or nothing at all. Everything's bleak. You just don't know. So to be able to hold space for somebody day after day, week after week, year after year, and partner through that with them through what I call the 52 pickup. I don't know if you remember that game. Really fun. I fell for that once with my brother. But you have 52 pickup with your entire financial life. Every asset needs to be looked at the way it was titled. The beneficiaries matter, the estate documents matter, the taxes matter. All the rules suddenly just come crashing down. And some
Mm.
of them are timeline sensitive. And then some of it, it's like, if you're in a really good place and you met with someone while you were a caregiver and you did all your pre-planning, then you do actually have time to be quiet. You still have the death duties, right? You still have to call the Social Security department, all of those things. You still have your laundry list of how to close an estate. However, you are given that gift of time. It's still not, don't make any major decisions for a year, though. I just really hate that because I feel it robs us of our experience. I don't know what your first year was like, but do I take my daughter with me when we drop my son off for college or should she stay home? Like it's
Oh
a
my
major
God.
decision. Like,
There was so much. And, the loss of my husband was unexpected.
right.
So we hadn't we did not have the luxury of any of those pre-conversations. We had a financial planner. He managed that side of our finances. I managed the day-to-day expenses, which is fairly common, but
Yes.
I didn't understand a lot of the language. And in the midst of grief, my mind was swirling. I couldn't understand what my financial planners were telling me. And
Nope.
and I had this overwhelm and frankly a little bit of embarrassment. Like, I mean, I can run a business, but I can't like grasp this technical financial stuff. And then I wasn't digging deeper to the questions and saying, okay, I need you to really explain this in layman's terms because I'm not getting it.
Right.
It took me personally a while to step into that. And I wish I would have stepped into it sooner and asked some different questions at the beginning. And so maybe for those out there that are have not been involved in the day-to-day of their finances, where do you suggest they begin? What questions should they ask?
I mean, are you talking about questions to ask a financial advisor
Yeah,
or?
let's start there.
Yeah, so if you already have a financial advisor, hopefully it's a very good relationship and conversation. And if someone says, don't worry about these things, it is because you've done the work together. If you're
Mhm.
engaging a financial advisor for the first time, I always tell fresh widows and caregivers to ask, do you work with families like us? Do you work with people like me? However you want to state it, but you want to know that they have experience because survivor benefits are different than old age retirement benefits are different than disability benefits. So knowing that piece, knowing, I know you were probably the same as me in similar timelines. I had 8 years and inside those 8 years, I was four of the five filing statuses for taxes. So understanding how your tax bracket and your standard deduction is going to change. Do they understand how not just investments, not just the stocks or the funds that you're buying, but do they understand the types of accounts where you need to have money, what will be most efficient for you? And being extremely generous with that first year of an emergency cash. I mean, things just come up, and I think it's so surprising because on average, a widow loses at least 40% of her income. That is the average.
Ah, well,
So, and you think about us, I mean, my husband was the breadwinner. I don't know if yours was, but
yep.
it's a substantial loss, and it's really hard to navigate that the loss of income and understanding because that's exactly how retirees live, right? At some point, they have their last paycheck and they look at their investments and say, okay, how is this going to work for me for the rest of my life? We're just forced into it earlier, sooner,
Yeah.
sometimes decades sooner, like you and me.
And Megan, I learned something later than I should have, and I didn't know the role you play, certified financial planner.
Mhm.
Because all of the things you're talking about, my financial planners that I had did not talk about those with me. It was all the investments. So all of this stuff about tax, yes, I had an accountant, but I didn't know what to ask him. And so I just think there's something really beautiful in the holistic aspect of the role you fill because you really hold their hand throughout everything and help them understand, I mean, tax, insurance, house stuff, car things, like all of these uh, legal things, like what should you be doing? And I didn't have that quarterback of a person. And that to me is so important. So,
It is. It really is. That is, so the second question I would ask is, are you a CFP? Not just are you a CFP, are you a practicing CFP who writes holistic financial plans? Like I have a friend who's an estate attorney, and during COVID, he took the CFP courses because he was like, business has kind of slowed down. This is something I can add to my repertoire. He does not write financial plans.
mm,
He wrote one because you have to pass the CFP. So the Certified Financial Planning Certificate has become the gold standard in the industry. And we do write, some of us write financial plans from a holistic point of view, and that starts with financial management. Financial management really assesses your cash flow. Your cash flow is income and expenses, right? So it's not like, oh, I just need your budget. I mean, I do. I need your budget because I tell all my clients this. I want to know your cash flow because I need to sleep at night too. So I ladder at least 3 years of treasuries or, to come due for the portion of cash that you need in the short term.
Yeah.
So that cash flow management piece is huge. And the other part of financial management is your debt and your liabilities. Do you have a 7.9% car loan? Should you pay that off? Should you not pay that off? Oh, I just have better peace of mind if I pay off my 2.25% mortgage. Do you really want to do that? Like that's really borrowing money at a lower interest rate. So sometimes you make decisions because they're the right decision for you. Sometimes the financial decision is the right decision for you. So some people are really like, hey, I just want to be smart with my money. And so I'm not going to pay off my 2.5% mortgage. Or, you advise me not to do this. Help me understand that again. Hey, if you put this whole $150,000 or $200,000 of your life insurance check in the bank at 4.2% and just slowly pay off your mortgage at 2.5%. How about that? Does that make sense? Without taking the risk of the market, you can do things like that. So just having a conversation, but that's just one piece. So you've got financial management. We get training in estate planning. We are not attorneys. We don't write documents, but we do understand that, and all of us widows know, titling and beneficiaries take precedence over your will and trust. Okay. The only time a trust takes precedence is when you title an account in the name of your trust, right? So the titling is what really matters. If you had a joint savings account, you go into the bank and they still talk to you. If he had a savings account titled in his own name and you were too quick to turn in the death certificate, then you got frozen out of that account until you got signed as the executor or that you were the rightful heir of that account. So titling is primo in a state. And then you take a look at taxes. Again, I'm not a CPA. I don't file taxes, but I do know the tax strategies when you're going from married filing jointly to qualified survivor to a household to where some people go straight from married filing jointly to single filer. Like, what are the things that I could do this year that would be smart and prudent to help me in the future? So
And
that's,
all of these steps, being able to hold their hand and say, okay, there's many things we're going to tackle, but this is what is step one.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you started with just cash flow management. There are so many widows out there. I work with them, you work them who have don't pay the bills. Their late person
yeah,
was always doing it online. They don't even know the passwords to even get
password.
online. And so you can help them and hold their hands and tell them how exactly to go do that, which I think is just key because as widows and bereaved people, we've got so much swirling in our mind of all the other things we have to take care of to know that somebody is just going to say, okay, Jody, week one.
Yep.
This
Well,
is
and here's the thing, when I'm working with caregivers and widows, whether they're fresh or tenured widows, um, I ask with caregiving couples, the caregiver and the patient, for them to pull their credit reports. It's a really great list of all accounts. Now, some of them might be closed, like it's a history of all of them, but what's still open? How is it titled? Do we need to call them now?
Mm,
Right? And the same thing when someone is deceased. Are there any accounts that are still open? Where is everything? So it's crazy, but it's like, okay, that's one little task.
mhm.
And I don't ask you as my client to analyze it. That's my quiet work. Is it still open? What's the revolving credit? I look at all of that stuff and then I make my list from there. So I might ask my clients to do things, and whether I bring it up again or not, is just depends on what the discovery
Yeah.
is when I go through that. And then, of course, one of the things that I see quite often, and I did this, and maybe you did too, was the insurance piece. I got a second policy. So I had a term policy, much like my husband did, and I got a second one, a much larger one. And literally, one of the CFPs that I worked with asked, do you want to make your kids rich off of you dying? And I just sat there and I was like, well, this is not what I would define as rich. And yeah, I do. They'll have no parents and that will suck. It's like I had that need and propensity to buy more insurance out of fear. And so, what's the right amount and what's the right kind? And I've seen some really egregious mistakes there and actually that's part of the history of our industry is insurance agents would go to the probate office and look at the list of just of people that were in probate, and they'd go knock on the door to talk to the widow or the survivor, the home, and sell them products.
Oh,
So
and
I always hope that a widow meets someone like me, a holistic financial planner that specializes in working with widows and not just an insurance salesperson. And I started in insurance. Like I know what it's like to have limited products and to know where they fit.
yes.
But I like being able to do the holistic point of view much better. So,
And before we move on to your role and what's going on with Modern Widows Club, I have one more clarification I want to put out there for people because I didn't know this. What Megan does is she charges a fee, a flat fee for her services versus other folks in the financial industry who take a percentage of whatever money you have invested, correct?
oh, kind of. So
Okay,
this
good.
is one of those muddy places in our industry, along with wealth manager, financial advisor, financial, like who knows what we call what. So I'm considered what they call a fee only advisor. And so you are correct. I actually have an annual contract. You hire me for a year, you write a check to Kopka Financial. That's it. We spend hours and hours and hours together. So, like within 3 to 6 months, my hope is to have a written holistic plan for you. But we meet every 2 weeks for at least the first three. So that's part of it. And then there's ongoing implementation and all those things. That is just financial planning. And that's what the CFP trains us in. What we didn't talk about in the CFP is the investment portion. I don't manage investments for anyone who has not gone through my financial planning process. So when it comes to investment management, that's when we're talking about the types of accounts, types of investments, the taxability of it, understanding the investments inside it, building a timeline for you and what those investments coming due inside those accounts and how to distribute it. So there's the contribution and accumulation phase, and then there's the distribution and withdrawal phase. So that alone is what I would say is a stockbroker. Now, here's where it gets muddy. I said I'm a fee only advisor. You can be a fee only advisor and charge a percentage off of the investments. So I start and lead with financial planning. When and if someone wants to hire me to do investments, first of all, they have to work with me, usually 3 to 6 months before I'd even open an account for them. But secondly, like once we get into investment management, then I keep the financial planning contract in place. I put $0 there, and it does become a percentage off of the accounts that I manage on your behalf. But the financial planning contract still exists because I believe financial planning is dynamic, right? Life hasn't stayed static for us. It kept changing. Like I had kids go to college. Now I have no one in college. That feels like another windfall, right? Like life changes along the timeline of what our expenses are, what our goals are, and all those kinds of things. So, fee only, I think, is another term that is just very misleading because, like I said, you can contractually like write me a check and pay me kind of that annual fee. or you can pay me a percentage of your investments as an annual fee. And both of those are considered fee only. What is not considered fee only is if I were to sell a commissioned insurance product or I earned commission off of trading stock for you. So that's the big difference. And sorry, God, I sometimes really hate our industry of how complex and
Yeah. But these
sneaky
are
it
good
feels.
questions
Yeah,
for
they are.
people that are trying to navigate what does this person do? What does this person do? Because it's very confusing or
It
can be.
really is. So that's why, like, whether someone calls themselves a wealth manager, a financial advisor, or a financial planner, look for the seal. The certified financial planner, I would say, is round one. You want to work with someone who has the dedication to their own education and understanding of how this all comes together in personal finance, because that's who's going to be best suited for you. Someone who understands all the different gears and how they work together in personal finance.
Perfect. And I want to move now to Modern Widows Club, which
Yeah.
is a nonprofit. And I've met Megan, I think before we knew each other in Modern Widows Club, but then came to that together. And now you're the chairwoman of the board for Modern Widows Club. So, and I know you're leading a financial empowerment club for widows. Before you go into that specifically, why don't you just give a high level, who is Modern Widows Club and what does it do?
Sure, yeah. So Modern Widows Club, the movement for widow care started initially as a support group. Like I was saying earlier, I was looking for something like the caregiving group that I had where I learned so much and people came together because you learn more from people that are in like situations. Modern Widows Club is that. We are a group of widows that follow an education system, right? Not really, but we facilitate and lead group support meetings on a monthly basis. My club here, the Cape Fear Club in Wilmington, North Carolina, we meet from 7 to 9 p.m. the first Tuesday of every month. And what we do there is a group of 20, 30. We actually had 37 at our last meeting. Widows come together and we have a facilitated conversation. Sometimes it's a presentation, sometimes it's an activity, and sometimes we split into small groups and just, pick a topic and empowering, healthy, purposeful living. Like, how do we do that? And how do we do that in the lens of still loving our husbands presently? Right. And so there's all different topics. So when you look at the clubs that Modern Widows Club has, like if you're lucky enough to have a local community and you're listening, I would say go, go. I have never been to a meeting where I didn't laugh, and I've never been to one where I didn't cry. Like I tear up. There are gems of wisdom that come out of meeting with widows. So not just like my client base, but I have the stories of hundreds of widows. I facilitated those meetings for 4 years. I was the founder of the club here. It was like once I went to one, I'm like, this is exactly what I was expecting widowhood would be like. Why is this not everywhere? Why is this not like AA and in every church, multiple times a week? Because the support is definitely needed. It is definitely needed. And then I'll just share briefly too, like there's also an online virtual community if you don't have an in-person, right? Like we could talk all day, the difference between being able to hug each other and reach out and touch someone's hand or really look eye to eye and see their body language versus the virtual. But if there's nothing else, join the virtual. And then the clubs, we have book club. They just read The Year of Magical Thinking, I think, last month, which was a great book by Joan Didion. We've got a parenting group. I know I would have loved that. I'm sure you would have too. The teen years, that was some tough times, but we've got toddlers and teens and everything in between. And then we have a relationship club, which helps us stay safe online. Like if you're going to open a Bumble account, how do you know if someone's safe? How do you keep yourself safe? How do you share location on your iPhone or, those types of things? So we just started a health and well-being club in the last couple of months, and then we added the financial empowerment group as well. And so
And there's a travel club, which
oh,
a lot
there's
of my
a
clients ask
very yes.
about.
So
Mhm.
part of the pillars of healthy living is fun and activities, and so the travel club very much fits under there, like having an adventure and not having to travel alone as a widow. Like, how do you step out like that again? So there's a lot going on inside of Modern Widows Club, but we also have a lot of leadership development. We've identified like fresh widows are in hope and heal modes, and then we have growth and leadership tracks as well. So there's educational series, there's leadership development, and then we also have advocacy. Uh, what is misunderstood is not supported. And I think widowhood is something that probably all of us would say before we were widowed, ooh, this is different than I thought it was going to be. Right? You just state widowhood like it's a fact, like, okay, my husband died. And it's like, my husband touched everything in my life. It's like a part of you dies. I went through what I now call an identity crisis, but I didn't even know I was in one when I was having it, you know? So we just, what we do is our mission is to serve widows at every stage of their life on a growth journey. And it's not, widowhood's not a moment. It's a whole lifelong transition.
That is beautiful and perfectly summarized
Aw,
and so
thanks.
powerful and hopeful for widows that feel stuck, lost, unsupported, don't know where to go. Modern Widows Club helps you to grow in whatever stage you're in, and I think that's beautiful.
It is very beautiful. And when you get to come together in a positive way, it's so different. I've gone and, as I vary in my different travels, I've attended different widows groups in other places. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like sometimes the ones that just do social meetups, um, it's like you wouldn't even know. It's like there's still a void of loss
Mhm.
sometimes where it goes unspoken. And then other times you feel like you're 5 years out and you're still in a grief group. And building resilience is just totally different. It's being able to lean in and really embrace the range of emotion that you have now, right? I think most of us understand in every joyful occasion,
Mhm.
there is so much tragedy and sorrow again. I just went to my husband's uncle's 80th birthday, and I'm going, man, Keith didn't even dream about being 50, yet alone 80, and it's a touch of envy, I guess, that I get. But it's more so just that longing of I wish life could have been what I thought it was going to be.
So tell us a little bit about the Financial Empowerment Club that's coming.
Oh, it's great. So we meet on Zoom. All of our clubs through Modern Widows Club meet through Zoom. We just had our inaugural meeting, our first meeting in April. And we had, I think, 44 in attendance, 58 actually registered, but we had like over 140 widows that were interested in joining. And I don't know if there was like something with the Zoom link and registration that happened, but still I was so pleased with such high numbers that women really seem to do understand when you have to, that finances are foundational. And at some point, sooner rather than later, is my hope, you got to lean in. You are the decision maker. You are the person in charge of your finances wholly and solely. You can partner with someone like me. I can be your guide when you're a fresh widow. I can help you through a lot of different things, and I will help you for a lifetime if I can, but at the same point, there's a lot of stuff that you're the keeper of the cards. And so what we found, we had a response come in, and the widows got to say, like, hey, what's most important to us? And number one was financial management. And so first we pulled on our chat, like, what does financial management mean to you? And we had some beautiful answers, like the ability to sleep at night and move freely through my day. It's that sense of security. And it was great because then Cindy Price, who's a CFP as well, she and I co-facilitate together. We gave kind of the CFP definition, like I had said earlier. It's, really addressing your cash flow and addressing your liabilities. That's technical terms for financial management, but it's so beautiful to see people in the chat reaching out to each other, like, oh, hey, I had something like that happen too. So we're going to talk about the disruptors. We're going to talk about the problems. I mean, even for me, anytime uh, a husband or a man or a woman, doesn't matter. Anytime anyone passes away that was part of a 401k plan, and God forbid that they switched jobs and had like 4 or 5 401k plans that they just left everywhere, every company you call, doesn't even matter if it's the same company. I've called Fidelity Net Benefits a million times. You get a different person on the phone and the process is different. So my big thing is like, what's your process? What's your timeline? When I submit this form, how long will it take before I hear back from you? All this, like, you have to be queen of questions to understand what is going to happen. And, I don't know if it's going to happen or not happen. And then what happens when things fall through? Did they drop the ball, or are we blaming ourselves and beating ourselves up? And so part of it is just, I can tell you from experience, give yourself a lot of grace. It might not be you. Okay. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to downplay widow fog by any means. That's why I really encourage having a good notebook. And if you wanted to add my notebook resource to this, I will send it to you. But it's kind of this template that I went through in caregiving of what are the right questions and how do I stay organized to keep on top of everything. So we're going through probably all 7 aspects of the CFP, and that's kind of what we're rolling out. And we're going
So
to alternate between women's conversations and activities. And Cindy wrote a book, so we're probably going to have her present on her book, and we'll go from there. I mean, it's like it felt so good because I was an advocate for a club and I missed that part of it. So it was really cool to facilitate again. But it's a lot different on Zoom, right? You're relying more on the chat. So until I get more proficient at breakout rooms and that kind of stuff, uh, that's where we are, and it's fun. It's fun.
and so if there's widows out there that want to find it under Modern Widows Club, the website, there's a financial empowerment tab or something.
Yeah, I think under communities are where all the clubs are, and you fill out the interest form and you'll get the registration link sent to you. One of our legacy daughters is actually the administrator at Modern Widows Club, and so you would get an email from her about the registration. The
Well,
Modern Widows Club has an awesome welcome packet, so I would just really encourage everyone to get in onto Widow Life on Substack, where our founder Carolyn Moore is writing her more thoughts and about widowhood. It's just such a well thought out organization. And I remember when I first found it, it was doom scrolling on Facebook in the middle of the night, just kind of like, is this organization for real? Are they this positive? And it was just always these beautiful, uplifting, um, poignant, the pearls of wisdom, the gems of loss, right? And that you're not alone. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I think women are very, very powerful collectively.
they very much are. And I know we could keep talking forever,
Yeah.
Megan,
Yeah.
but I think that's a great pearl that you're not alone. You do not
Yes.
have to be alone in helping find your way forward. And whether it's through Modern Widows Club, a local organization, find some other widows out there. And Modern Widows Club is a great place to start. So, Megan, where can everybody find you?
Social media wise, I think LinkedIn is probably the best place. Otherwise, my website is kopkafinancial.com.
And you
Kopka with all
mentioned,
K's.
oh,
Kopka.
thank you. And you have
Yep.
a notebook with free downloadable with questions for them to ask, or what was that about?
Yeah, no, it's just a PDF. It's a couple pages long that I give all fresh widows, even my friends. I send it to them immediately, whether it's a terminal illness or a loss of here's how to ask questions. It's very, very basic, but when you start having capacity issues with how much you're juggling, like I'm sure it was the same for you. I had 2 high schoolers, 3 seasoned athletes, a husband dying of ALS, like 18 different caregivers coming through the house at a revolving door, working part-time at the last year, but it was a lot. Your capacity is only so much. And so, yeah, I'll definitely give that to you. And that was one of the things that you had talked about, like leaving inspired. Um, I would say there is hope, and there's a U2 song where the cadence goes, you don't have to go it alone. The title of the song is Sometimes You Can't Make It on Your Own. And so I would say to any fresh widow, anyone suffering loss, there are two professionals that I think you should have in your corner. And one is a grief therapist, and the second is a CFP. Get some help through it. You don't have to go it alone. Even if you just partnered with someone for a year and you want to manage your own investments or you think you can handle it in this rocky phase because you are going through so much, I would say if you can afford it, and even if you can't, because another organization I volunteer for, Wings for Widows, offers a few sessions with a CFP at no cost. So really, I think that's the biggest thing. There is support out there in the Modern Widows Club. There is support out there with a financial planner, and there is support out there for you outside of the normal realm that we're used to playing around in. Sometimes you need more than friends, you need the professionals.
Yes, you do. Well, Megan, thank you so much for today. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks for having me, Jody. It's been a pleasure.